How are you, Darren?
You're fine. I wanted to explain the camera.
You can have it.
Want that off your hands.
Yes, pretty much, yes.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ooh, perfect
All right.
timing.
So we're recording, we're live. Just a quick, this is our microphone and our camera. As you speak, it will find you. And so you'll notice, look at me, it'll start, RT if you start talking.
Test.
So it switches to him, and if somebody, so you'll see it kind of swap around a little bit. We should be, if you'll speak to it, then that would be, we're live.
All right. Oh, hold on.
Do we have Nelson? Nelson?
Yes, Nelson is here.
Welcome, Nelson.
Good afternoon, I'm here.
Hi, Nelson.
Is that better than the phone?
Yeah, so much better. Thank you, Eric.
Good.
Okay. All right, let's get organized. Start with glasses. Where are they? Just gotta make sure everything's-
All the chairs.
Okay. All right. Welcome to our board meeting. Today's date is Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. The time is 3:03. We're a little late. We were touring the school. It's our first time to be in this school since it's been completed. So in attendance, we have Mary Shumway, board member, Steve Black, board member, Ramon, board member, Superintendent Nelson, Tyrell Pemberton, BA, and we also have Nelson Young joining us, and Lucille is not, correct?
Not yet.
Okay. All right, so I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there any suggested changes that anybody has? I move to accept that agenda, approve that agenda.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will turn the time on to Superintendent for our STEM request update.
Thank you. For this update, I wanted to highlight a couple of teachers, and I want to preface this by saying, we are very, very fortunate of the caliber of teachers we have in our district, and they do an amazing job, and they always have the last year or so. There's been even more asked of them, and they have certainly risen to rose to the occasion and been outstanding in their efforts, and we appreciate very much. There were two teachers particularly that were recognized last month for very impressive awards. So I wanted to recognize them and let them kind of represent our entire teaching staff as a whole. But I'd like to recognize Teresa James, who's an agricultural science teacher at Lion Valley. She was awarded Excellence in Teaching Award by the Utah Education Association. And Linda Kais, who's a teacher at Monticello Elementary, was recognized as the Utah Science Teacher of the Year for Region 7, the Elementary Teacher of the Year for Region 7. Both of those teachers, I think, are outstanding. They represent a tremendous, all of our outstanding teachers. And it's so neat to see them receive recognition beyond our district and further out in the state. And we've had many others that have as well. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate their efforts and what they've done and the teaching effort they put forth for our students. So, okay, our first item on the agenda is a presentation from the Utah Food Bank request. Is it Jeanette? It's your last name, Bott, B-O-T-T? Okay, so if you want to go ahead and present, you're up.
Thank you so much. My name is Jeanette Bott. I'm President and CEO of the Utah Food Bank. Also on the call today, I have Kent Liston, our Chief Financial Officer, and Scott Woodhead, our Chief Operating Officer. And we have come together today to visit with you in regards to some projects that we are permanently placing in the San Juan County area that will have a positive impact on service of food to those who are struggling with food insecurity. The Utah Food Bank has been established since 1904. We are an affiliate of Feeding America, and through that affiliation, we're responsible for the entire state of Utah. We have been serving the San Juan area for the last 30 years, but we come one truckload at a time. And while it has worked in the past, we've learned great lessons during the pandemic. And so we've recognized that it's a time for us in our business model to take a different look and approach to how we do business. About 2 years ago, we were approached by the state treasurer's office asking if we would be interested in trying to find a way that we could better serve the reservation. And right after those initial conversations started, the pandemic hit. So those were set aside for over a year. We've come back together as a group, and through our ability to talk and to look at the county, the Utah Food Bank as an organization decided that it would be best if we built a distribution center or a warehouse in Blanding that could serve the surrounding area. We sent some renderings down for you to take a look at. They were to have been attached to your agenda. Did you get those?
Yeah, I see them here. Thank
Okay.
you.
So the first one I'd ask you to look at is the Blanding project. We have purchased 7.5 acres, and we are going to, if you look at this overhead shot, you will recognize the LDS church. Directly behind it is the area where the baseball field is from the high school. So we're just down the street from the district offices and just on the corner of the main highway. So we're in the process now of putting out to bid a 15,000 square foot warehouse. And in addition to the warehouse, we'll have a greenhouse and a community garden. That distribution center will allow us to bring product that will come not only to serve Blanding, but then Monticello or up to Moab, or then across the reservation areas that we serve. So we wanted you to see, just kind of look at the layout of what we've determined with the property that we have purchased in Blanding. The next item of business we determined we need to place there 2 pantries, one in Montezuma Creek and one in Monument Valley. We are in the process of purchasing 1.5 acres of land in Montezuma Creek. We will be over in the area by the dollar store. We will be able to have a 4,000 foot facility. This building and the Blanding plant and the one in Monument Valley will all be staffed by employees of Utah Food Bank. So we're excited that we can bring some full and part-time jobs to the economy. By having food pantries that are staffed, that are full-time employees, we would have the ability to have extended hours of service for the pantry, perhaps evening or even Saturday service, making food availability much easier, but also having a specific point where foods could be located and could be resourced. In that packet, you received also the renderings of what the pantry in Montezuma Creek and hopefully Monument Valley location will look like. Again, they're 4,000 square feet. It has the ability to serve food. To provide food, set up similar to a small grocery store. So those coming to get product have the ability to walk through the aisles and choose the product that they would need. It would also allow us to have parking. It would have a dock area for us to unload and to restock inventory that would be done with box trucks. These are, to our architect's credit, we were trying to find a drawing or a look or an external view that would be similar to some of the architect that's already in place in those locations. And so having secured Montezuma Creek and then Blanding, our next step is to find property in Monument Valley. I think that the drawing that you see of that pantry, the smallest amount of property or parcel would be about 3/4 of an acre. Monument Creek, that plot that we bought was 1.5 acres, but we could do it with 3/4 of an acre. We would love the opportunity to purchase property and be close to the schools and to the health center, Monument Valley. We think this would be advantageous on many reasons for the community. It's a central location. It's close to the schools that we're already serving through programs that we're hosting there. It would be close to the clinic. We're working on a pilot project here in the Salt Lake Valley with University of Utah Health Center, where doctors are writing prescriptions for specific types of food. So for example, if someone is struggling with diabetes, there would be a food box that's pertinent to food items specific for their issues. The doctor would write a prescription, the person comes to the pantry closest to the hospital, and we fill that order for them. Would love to see something like that work on the reservation. We also are currently trying to find vendors that are in the production mode of foods that are more specific to Native American diets. We hear all the time the food that we send isn't ideal, so we think we can do better with the types of food, and we'd have more room now to be able to store and to serve those foods as needed. I think the challenge that we all know that we have in the Monument Valley area is there's very little property that's available. We would love to be able to purchase that property at a fair market value. That would be determined by your organization, and that money would come directly, I guess, to the school board, and you could do with it as you see fit. But our purpose of the call today is to chat with you, to answer questions, and to ask if that's even a possibility of considering that kind of a transaction.
Okay. Do you have questions? So have you actually been down on that property? Do you have so this proposed site is the landing site, the one over there, is that correct? Well, the one you purchased. So this is the landing
the one in,
site.
right. So that one is already purchased and secured, and we're moving forward with that one. We've been to the property in Montezuma.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
So have you actually been down to Monument Valley and walked that property? So
Yes, we have.
so do you have, I guess what I'm asking is what do you have in mind, what area of our property?
Repeat that one more time, I'm sorry.
What area do you have in mind on our property?
That was a decision that when we realized the location of where that is, that we would leave to you. Our thought process is that anywhere within that 5 acre area that's close to your facilities are areas where families and individuals are already coming. So having the pantry right there within the realm of those buildings and that situated gathering of buildings would be an ideal spot for a pantry. I know that they were doing some food distribution from an older building up behind Goulding's, and they were doing a monthly distribution there. And that property wouldn't work for what we're trying to do. And it really wasn't ideal as far as location and being able to assist the schools or the health clinic.
Nelson, do you have any questions?
As far as the projects itself, we have already obtained funding. There would be no cost of any kind to erect the building, to maintain the building. There's no expense to the school district or to anyone in that area. It's a Utah Food Bank project that will be paid for in full. Our partnership with the Navajo Trust has allowed us to be able to secure funds and pay for all 3 of these sites. So having that in the area and having it there, what we did with the land in Montezuma Creek was we wrote into that contract that if for some reason that property were to be sold, the first right of refusal would come back to the Navajo Trust Fund. And we would like to say that it would come, if this were to happen, that would be the same process that we would do for the school district.
Okay. Nelson, did you have any questions?
Yes, I'm just sitting here thinking, the question that was already asked, what areas are we specifically talking about? I'd like to know if there's been visits there and what is ideal. My biggest concern always is highway traffic.
So when we visited the property, when we came down the last time, we had folks with us from the Utah Navajo Trust, and they drove us around that area, and we looked at the area as a whole. We didn't look at any one specific location, but we would, if you look at the renderings, you can see that we've allowed for a small parking lot that would keep folks off the main streets. It would keep people who are going into the building going into a door that is removed from the street, and our trucks would not hamper the traffic flow of any kind. So again, that 3/4 of an acre could be situated really anywhere that would be convenient, that would be a approximately flat and level piece of property for us to build on.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
So I think all we need to do is look at this information and obviously discuss it as a board further. So one last question. You have a photograph of the building on the front page of this pamphlet. Well, this group of papers. This is obviously the Blanding, what Blanding's facility is going to look like. Is that correct?
No, this would be the pantry that would, both the pantry in Montezuma Creek and Monument Valley would be identical. The rendering you're looking at will be the pantry itself.
Okay.
So the only difference that isn't on there is there would be some small signage that would say Utah Food Bank.
Sure. Okay. All right. So we'll need to explore this further. If that's all right.
Lori, I have one more question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Probably this question will probably go to the district and the board members. We need to be careful with the clause that we've always dealt with when we had the property exchange with the clinic and the block property. Does the food bank know this? Are they aware of it? I don't know how far we're into exchanging information, but if not, maybe we ought to share that with them so they know in advance. And I hope it fits in, because there is a great need for a pantry down here. Boy, when that pandemic first hit, people were struggling. You get to know curfew hours. The curfew hours kicked in and so forth, and people are not able to travel nearby grocery stores, and even the grocery stores were limited to hours, and so families were struggling quite a bit. So, but yeah, it's a great need for this food bank, and I'm glad to hear they're making plans to serve us locally in the future here. And I like the idea of switching out some of the foods that is needed, some of the traditional food, and healthy food, and keep us away from unhealthy foods such as sodium and cholesterol type of food, which is a great setback for our Navajo families with their diabetes and so forth. So I'm glad to hear that, and I'm happy to hear your report and your presentation. So thank you.
Well, one last thing I would ask you all to remember as well is any of the product that comes from Utah Food Bank that's distributed to folks in need is free of charge. No one is ever charged for the food. No one is charged for the distribution or services that we give the areas. All of this would be paid for, put in place, manned by Utah Food Bank staff, and will be delivered and shared with the folks of that area free of charge. So hopefully that will resonate that with a bigger variety of food, different types of food, but still being sure that dietary needs are being met, but it's still free, is a huge, huge plus to communities that we serve across the state. And I think it would be a great location to have the implementation of that same kind of a program in your area.
So, Mary, do you remember what else this time?
Do I know what he's referring
Yeah,
to?
go
Yes.
back. I mean, just refresh us.
Just that there are restrictions on what that land can be used for. And so we just need to, have you reviewed that document on?
Specifically for the restrictions.
So that's probably the first
Yes,
step.
and then the next thing is, it's very clear that Utah Food Bank would like facilities close, you know, in several areas in San Juan County. And the food that would be stored specifically for what we're talking about in Monument Valley is for the residents here on the reservation. And so it would make sense to me to visit with the tribe, if you haven't already, on building the facility on tribal land, since it's for the residents and for the Navajo people. So have you approached the tribe to just get a piece of land to build the food bank on, to have food here for the Navajo people?
I'm having a tough time hearing you. You're breaking up, but I think I got enough of your comment to respond. This for us is a first step, our meeting with you. We went to the district offices in Blanding with the idea and spoke with Tyrell to see if this would even be a possibility to have this discussion. For us, we had determined meeting with you today would then give you the opportunity to talk amongst yourselves as a board and determine if you wanted Utah Food Bank to proceed with this. If so, then our next steps, once we would have your blessing, is then to go through all of the processes and procedures that would be pertinent to the Native Americans of that area to be sure we are doing everything correctly. But we needed to figure out if this was even feasible, that we could purchase a small parcel of land before we did all of that.
Okay, so the question is, have you considered and or talked to the Navajo Nation about just building on Navajo Nation land for the Navajo people? So
our work so far has been with Tony Dayish of the Navajo Trust Fund. We have worked with him and with his board, and they have been the ones that have been giving us guidance.
okay, so I guess the answer is no, you have not approached the Navajo Nation about building this food bank on Navajo land? Okay.
No, and we felt we didn't want to do that. We felt we needed to know if it was even a possibility before we brought the idea to folks, whether it would be us being hopeful and being disappointed or them being hopeful and being disappointed. We wanted to be sure we took the correct next steps.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I think what we need to do is talk about this amongst ourselves and then we'll let you know. Does that work?
That's fine with us. We are in a process right now of finishing drawings with architecture specs, and we're looking at contracts for construction companies to place the bids with. So we're moving forward with work. We'd love to be able to say we can do 3 jobs versus 2. So not to say that it's absolutely urgent that we get an answer from you immediately, but I think there's a lot of work to be done. So if we could ask you to expedite that conversation, we would be truly appreciative of that.
Thank you. We appreciate you joining our meeting.
Thank you for your time. We look forward to talking to you in the future, and we're so hopeful that we can continue to lend an extra helping hand to that part of the county.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
So what we need to determine is if we want to let them explore that, and when would be, step would be, first of all, we've got to look at the agreement And second of all, I think I see Steve pulled his map up, it'd be kind of nice to have a current map of, because we've given that land to, Utah State. We really need to see where everything is situated at this point. Because in my mind, I'm just thinking, I can remember what's where and where. Either we go down and walk that property and look at it and see, or we have a map that shows that rendering where that building will go and so forth. So
First of all, the documents need to be reviewed to see if it is something that is within our scope.
right.
And then go for,
When you're talking documents, which documents are you?
when San Juan School District obtained that land, there are restrictions for educational,
Yep.
and
had to look in
I
that.
don't have the document, I mean, we don't have the document
I
right
had
here.
to do a lot of research on that,
Right.
and it says something to the extent it has to. There is educational and public services benefit or something along those lines.
Yeah, we just need that.
That's why we said I
So,
See if
remember
it
what
would
I
or
know.
would not fit in, and then if it doesn't, if it does,
we can
we
look
can
into
go to the next step. If it doesn't,
so if it does, do you have a comment? Okay.
Well, this, I guess a concern is just that, in my mind, this land has been set aside for education or go back to. And it seems like because there is a lack of, commercial viable property in the area that this people come to the school district to see if they can cut out a piece of that land there. And I see it continue. So, a little, I don't know, that's just-
So if by next meeting we can have the document, and I would like to see a map of where things are at, even the temporary Utah State one. And then I think we could, because the other thing is this was not attached, was it attached?
It came in last night, so we.
Oh. Okay, so I could, yeah. So anyhow, I kind of like to look through all this. Obviously it's something that's new to us, and then we can further that discussion next month. And then if it's not something in the scope of that agreement, then we don't need to put it on. But does that sound good? Okay, are you good with that, Nelson?
I have a hard time trying to hear everything. The sound quality is not that great. I do want to bring up maybe an idea. I would like to talk about that in closed session, though.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Our master.
it would have to fit into our, if it's bargaining, collective bargaining.
Anyhow, we'll get close. Okay. We'll go to number 2, our COVID update.
Yes,
5 minutes.
we are moving forward day by day. There hasn't been a tremendous amount of change again. You do have yesterday's numbers. As of yesterday, you see the date on that, the school counts that are right there on the screen. Those have stayed pretty steady to what you're seeing there. Blanding has had the most cases pretty much since the beginning of school and continues to have. But again, we are not seeing numbers that are 30 is the threshold, but we are not seeing numbers that are even coming close to approaching those at this time. We certainly, like I've said before, and continue to emphasize, do not know that and do not even believe that we're getting all of the active cases recorded in that data, because we know, or at least we suspect, there are many kids that go home sick for a time and do not get tested, and then when they're better, they come back to school. And that is just partially what you keep, things that we can't control. But as of the data that we do track, the data that we get daily from the health department, this is what you're seeing. As you're aware, I'm sure there is now a new vaccine approved for children ages 5 through 11, and that has just recently been made available. And is UNHS, Utah National Health Systems, has recently received a shipment of those vaccines and has worked with us to secure using our facility because they need some additional space. Their clinics are also still very busy and limited in space, and this provides the opportunity for them towards the end of the day and after school to use our facilities. It's 100% choice, parent choice. There's no in any way motive to pressure or to in anything but to allow parents access and choice to what they'd like to see happen. If a student is immunized, then the parent must be there present with it to happen. So that pretty much ensures that we'll have we'll control the process very cleanly so that it is parents who choose to take their child into the cafeterias or the locations for those vaccine clinics. So that could be a big help also to helping, and we do have a number of parents that have called and been interested in that service being provided. There's some other bigger things swirling, but really I have no other information on that outside of what we're seeing in our district. And so at this time, I would just report that we're about where we've been all year, and we're still moving forward. It's still a daily drain. It really is. We still just feel the uncertainty and the constant just change and uncertainty of what we're going to get every day and what now we face that's different than yesterday because of a situation where somebody is now confirmed has a case and they're quarantined or they're isolated. And just the grind of it is definitely an emotional toll as well as a physical toll on our staffs. But for the most part, we're just taking it day by day. And I would say overall, the report is very good. And we still have kids in school, in every school, and we're still attending athletic and other activities. And we're doing the best we can to provide a high quality education.
Nelson, did you have a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that the numbers are the case numbers are a little different than what's on the dashboard and what is being presented here on the screen. Wanted you to be aware of that.
On our website.
This came from our website yesterday.
So, Nelson, it
may be different today because this was yesterday's or it was on the 9th. Because I made sure I had it on. So today, yes.
So for example, on our dashboard at the website, LaSalle, I believe, has 2 cases. Sabine has 0. Monument Valley stays the same, so is Navajo Mountain. I think those are the only numbers I've seen. So which one is it?
Well, I'm trying to see.
that was yesterday.
Yeah, the cases you're looking at were yesterday's cases. So you're looking at today's and comparing it to yesterday. Nelson, does that make sense? There's going to be a change. There could be a change every single day in this chart. So any one day you put it, but I cut this as of yesterday when we built the agenda. And I have the agenda on there 24 hours. I put yesterday's on there.
5, 8, 4 minutes. Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Nelson.
Thank you.
And thanks. Okay. Julie, you're gonna come talk about spend plans 3 and 4.
Yes. So this is our second look at the FFA for ARL. So if you have any questions or thoughts or ideas for the FFA spend plan, they're just gonna begin an FFA chapter basically at ARL and they'll have the jackets there that kids can just have. So everything will really just be pretty minimal on the spend plan to get that in place and of course make us sound high with all of their activities, most of their activities. And then the other, closer, do I need to be closer?
Closer.
Okay.
Maybe.
Oh, maybe I should, yeah. And then, I forget, sometimes I even have shots. And then the other spend plan is Monticello High School baseball. So we will have a new coach next year, and when he looked at the spend plan, they added, their pants are getting really worn out. So they added pants and they added a t-shirt. The hoodies are a little more expensive than what was on, I think like $10 more. And they're going to add the number on the hoodies so that those can be used on cold days as their uniforms. So that's the difference in the price there. So I think it was, I don't know, $30 or $40 difference from the initial baseball spend plan to the new one. And then all of the meals and motels and things stay the same. So that's the Monticello baseball spend plan.
Okay. Any
Miss-
questions for Julie? I have a question. Can you tell us just a little bit more about the FHA program at the middle school since it is new?
Well, what they'll do is they want it to be based around a lot of it to be based around agriculture, so they can do a lot with San Juan High as well. They'll also, they'll have the club, the FFA club, so that they'll be able to have the activities and do things that are agriculturally based. And then sometimes they do competitions. And so they'll do those, they'll try to do as many as they can with the high school so that they can compete locally.
Let's just see if
They see if there's,
I just don't know much about the program, but also it's interested in knowing, or so they have all, I mean, it's listed there, so they have all these different, and where do they go for these? Are they at other schools that have FHA programs? Are they, I mean, I see that it says Spanish Fort and.
yeah, some of them
Summer
are out of
Retreat and
district.
those kinds of-
They're trying to keep, for ARL, they're trying to keep as much local as they can, just because of our travel. So the high school, yeah, they'll do more travel to some of
And
those.
the
To
middle
compete.
school, if I'm remembering right, they do not stay overnight. That's part of the
No,
policy.
no, they don't.
And so this doesn't include anything overnight. I think
Yeah,
there's some exceptions
that's
for overnight.
But that's not an approved one.
Yeah.
They would have
And we've talked through all of those, and Ryan's not even planning on going down that direction, so. We talked about maybe having to leave early, if there was one competition that was, but we're not even going there. So, okay,
All right,
very good.
thank you. Trevor, school counseling, college readiness. Can you do 3 minutes?
Yes, we'll be very quick. So every year we present the school counseling comprehensive guidance program review. We do have our state review in December, and we'll have our state specialists come and go through our programs and give us feedback. Every year we ask for that board approval that we use our funds and all of our resources to support those model programs and make sure that those align with state standards. So we present that letter today, and then we also present, our teams have been really working on well-being teams, bringing in more mental health into resources into our communities. Mental health resources are stretched very thin right now. We're utilizing everything that we can. One of those is well-being teams through the University of Utah that's helping. We're collecting data and feedback and providing extra level of therapy. One of the things we utilize in that is what's called a screener, mental health screener, in collaboration with the University of Utah. That is done only with parent permission, but because it is a screener, we're getting that parent permission, using those screeners to try to find the right level of mental health care for our students. We do that through our agreement, through a privacy disclosure with the parent and with the University of Utah to help our families find the right type of treatment. That's done through San Juan Counseling and through the University of Utah. So we shared that screener with you just to make sure you're aware of that. We don't do that without parent permission, but in some schools they've started offering that in a bigger scale. We don't do that because we don't have the resources to screen at that large of a level, but we do offer that if parents come in and say, we'd really like to have a level of care above what the schools are able to offer. We will get parent permission and work with families to get the right care that those families need. That screener helps us to do so. So there's information about the well-being teams and the care that's going on. We have about 40 hours through the University of Utah that's available of therapy to our students throughout the district that's currently happening, in addition to the San Juan counseling services that we're able to offer and coordinate with them and with Utah Mental Health Service, their behavioral health department. So it's a collaborative effort to try to keep up with the needs of our students. So, any questions?
Yeah, Okay, so I guess I don't completely understand. I mean, this is just like so basic. And why is this required? Or,
So our collaborative effort, because we are offering a screener, our collaborative effort requires school board approval that you are aware that if parents come in and give us permission, we are screening for mental health.
does that stay here, that in here, or this sounds like really basic stuff? Like, yeah, we agree. We're like, yeah, I do agree with all of this, but it doesn't.
It's in schools throughout the state. It is a lot more significant. So in some of the school districts right now, as students are enrolled in schools, they can take a screener right there, and some of the schools are requiring that. Some of that comes for school safety, to screen in case there's concerns. Some of that is to catch or prevent issues that may arise. We don't have the resources to screen anything other than what parents are asking, and so we've left it at, if a parent comes in and requests a level of care, then we would give permission and screen. So across the state, some school districts screen everybody upon enrollment, and we don't do that. So at some point, it could be proposed that all of our students are screened for well-being or mental health care prior to enrollment, but we don't have the resources right now to do that.
So is this the key wording here? School. It says what we're agreeing to is, I mean, it's school counseling, college, and career readiness. So that seems.
Are you looking at?
There's
number
two
five?
different things.
Yeah, number 5 is completely different than number 6.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go back and hit number 5.
Lori told me to make it quick. So
Sorry.
Thank you. Nelson, do you have any questions?
5 is just approval for
Okay,
our
when
model
I
program.
read this, so it appears to be, when I was looking at this, it appears to be a flyer. Is that what it is, or just information for us?
On item number 6 is information for you with the attached screener if you had any questions about us offering that in the schools with parent permission.
Okay, and then when students are given the screener, yeah, and I read through all these. So my concern, I'm wondering about these questions. And maybe it works itself out. I get excited about learning new things in class. I can see students that I know and have known or whatever saying, well, I do, and this is so-and-so's class because everything in her class is exciting. No, I don't get excited about the one that everybody's falling asleep in. And I feel like we don't have any control over these questions, right? I feel like there's some real.
They're in order to be able to help give the right level of care, mental health care for students. So that information that would be shared would be able to give a therapist information to help build a rapport and provide the right type of modality, counseling, or services that would be available. So at that point, that's where the parent permission in using that comes in.
And this information is just for the therapist or the people working
The client
in
and
mental health?
client and the therapist.
Okay, that's funny. I just think there's some of them that it really depends on, like the class and the teacher that it may be a screening for how well a teacher is teaching or how the student perceives life.
Yeah, the general rating that they're giving is to help the therapist work with the student to help build upon positives and provide the right type of care.
I know, but these aren't our questions. The screening is not our questions.
Correct.
Okay, and then do we have staff members, teachers, administrators who recommend students, or is it all parent motivated?
So we have 3 levels of tier in the school system that has tier 1 prevention, providing services to everybody, providing interventions when we're trying to prevent other things from happening. This is considered a tier 3 intervention or support for students. And the counseling is upon request or referred by somebody in the school. So working with a student that is having challenges could be referred to that level of care. And then we work with parents. We have some parents that say, I don't want any counseling or any services, and we respect that right. But we have a lot of parents that say, we would like our students to be in counseling, and then we work through those support us to get into.
Does it happen in that direction sometimes where the parent thinks, and it hasn't been recognized by the school, where a parent says.
Absolutely. So if the student's struggling
it
at
can happen
home,
either way by, somebody at home, an adult at home requesting it,
correct.
or the parents, and do we have students who come ask for help and then,
Absolutely.
okay.
And then we try to find them the right type of care.
One last question. Are the school wellbeing teams in every school? Or is there a collaboration in place in the district?
To collaborate, every school has a collaborative team of whatever resources are available, school psychologists, school counselors, school social workers, assistant principals.
So each school has their own team.
Everybody's
Okay.
working collaboratively to try to
Sure.
meet each one of those tiers at their school level.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I was
All right.
off.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Bremerton, Office of the State Treasurer.
Yes, so this is just a public entity resolution that has to be passed by the board by a quorum. This is going to allow, with the change in administration at the district level, it allows myself and Jennifer to be the administrators for our public treasury investment fund. The current resolution is outdated with past administrators and past employees of the district. So we just need to get this updated and passed by the board so that we can get that access at the PTIF level.
Any questions for Trevor? Trevor, Tyrell.
That's right. It happens all.
Team, I want to know. Hey, you got questions about Tyrell's job? I knew that. I'm like, that doesn't sound right at all. Go ahead. Did you have a question? Okay. All right, we're gonna move on. Judith, no. Something embarrassing or not. Okay, go ahead.
We can pause it if we need to.
All right, go on.
I did put 5 minutes, but that may have been just wishful thinking.
Well, I'll put 5 minutes as a reminder for you.
I am gonna bring a proposal before the board, and of course, what I'm doing here is trying to solve a problem, and I'd like to explain a little bit of the problem, and then we can go from there and decide if this is the right solution for the problem or not. But we have received some concern. We fielded some comments and some concern from our teachers especially in a couple of areas that have been, that we've tried to be proactive and figure out an answer for. The concern has been the things that we are requiring of them and the time to do that. One of the main things that we are requiring right now, and it's actually the state requiring it, but it comes down to us and the state working together for a requirement, is due to the fact that we did not reach our 3rd grade reading goal. We are required to take some corrective actions within the district, and that one of those corrective actions is to bring the letters training. It's called Letters. It's a literacy-based training. It's very cutting edge. It's very, very current, and I've never heard anyone say anything bad about it. I've heard tons of just really quality and good things about the training. But one thing that I have heard along with those good things is when we originally got the information from the state and we lined out the program and we met with our teachers and we provided even some additional time in the beginning of the school year, and we laid it out on how we would have our teachers work through this program, we thought we fully understood the modules and everything that was expected of it. Once we got going on those modules, we heard very quickly that the modules and the things, though they are very, very good, very, very quality, they are more involved, and more time is required than what any of you explained or said would be involved. And so we looked into it just to verify, and we checked the state. We realized that as they put it together, that they probably also underestimated what it would take to work through that. So we did feel very concerned about, something we are requiring our staff on top of the things we require of them already. And we started to look for solutions. In addition to this, we also know, and this is just kind of in addition, that we are transitioning to the 80 period block times of the AB schedule. And again, there, I've almost in all cases heard positive feedback. I have heard one negative feedback that directly came to me, but for the most part, it's been extremely positive. Our teachers have, I've even heard some say they did not think it would be a positive change. They found it to be positive. So heard a lot of good things there, but we do continue to hear that it is, again, a transition that involves a lot. It involves time to look at lesson plans and to redesign lesson plans and make sure they're meaningful and make sure they can hold students' engagement for a full 80 minutes and really be prepared and meaningful in that time. There's also time with the new flex period and being ready for that and making sure that's meaningful. And we've started to monitor that, really look into that and see there. So overall, I think it's been really good, but in addition to the letters training, we also knew and are aware that anytime we can find that might be helpful to all of our educators that are going through this transition. You're good. Did you get it?
It's driving me nuts. It's driving me nuts.
Did you win?
No.
Good thing was on that side.
Sorry.
Anyway, anything there would be helpful. So we looked at some options. We looked at, pulling teachers out of the classroom, maybe giving them some time, and we looked at like Friday afternoons, but again, those compete for already being Friday afternoons and already time. So we're trying to find additional time that we know we can free up. So we looked at possible training days, anything that involves subs was a high problem because of the sub situations and the things we've talked about even in our last meeting. So we started to look into the possibility of finding a day. And there is, with the new legislation, there is ways the district can use days of instruction to support teachers or support high critical need areas. And many districts are utilizing them in some ways. Really, our CCR days kind of fall into that. We count our CCR days of 2 of our 180 days. And there is I think the maximum is 4, but we are using 2. But the idea was floated and we looked at it, a possibility of taking an instructional day, freeing up our teaching staff, providing some additional time, and it would be a day that students would not be in school. This would be dedicated to time to work and to accomplish some of these things that are required of them. And as we looked at the calendar, we looked a little deeper and we got looking and we thought December 22nd is the day that we go out for Christmas break. And there might be a lot of parents that are looking at that day and thinking that would be convenient to get started a little earlier or to travel or any of that. We sometimes hear we don't get nearly the length of breaks that any other districts do. And I try to explain we all go the same amount of days to school. But anyway, some start earlier and some go later and all of that, those factors in there. But we looked at that and we thought that maybe that was, looked at it, thought that could possibly be a good fit where we'd take December 22nd, we'd make it a work day, and teachers would find more time, and students would not come to school. Christmas break for our students would start earlier. Teachers would have extra time, and I do float the idea. We thought some to be convenient to how far some have to travel during Christmas break, how they build their schedules. I would also recommend that time be 8 hours of time that they complete sometime during the Christmas break. So they would be more free on that day of December 22nd, our teaching staff. And we look at that as the possibility of doing that and making that switch. Now, I know Julie and Christy are here. They can speak more to the letters training and the modules. Do you want to speak just quickly to what our teachers see regarding that?
I'll
Matilda?
just kind of explain a little bit. So,
Are we on this mic now?
We're on this one.
So now you get to come right up to my desk.
we get to.
Grab this
we're
chair, Christy,
friends.
come on.
If that's like.
Okay. So, with the letters training, they're asked to, there are 4 units this year, 4 units next year. And within those units, it's a pretty comprehensive curriculum that they're working through. They're not learning curriculum to take back to their classroom. They're learning content to better their teaching.
and to understand how to really identify reading difficulties in children, strategies that will help them kind of fill their toolbox, and then help them be able to look at improvements across the board with all children. So they have the unit that they're working through, and then they have a face-to-face, which is virtual this year, but it's a face-to-face session. We wrote into the early learning plan, you'll probably remember there was a professional learning grant piece of that, and there was about $20,000. So after indirect costs, we've got about $18,000 to put towards that face-to-face piece that we're paying for substitutes for their virtual, because the teachers have to leave the classroom that day. So they're having to get a sub on top of, they have a lot of content. A lot of our teachers are working on their ESL endorsements. They're also working on personal endorsements that they're working towards. And so, to add letters, which everyone has just taken it on. They know it's a good thing. They've taken it on, but it is a heavy lift. And it is, and unit 1 definitely is going to be the hardest. When I visited with the state, they said, Christy and I called them and just said, help, what are other districts doing, and what can we do to be creative to help? And one of their first questions were, well, why aren't you using your professional development days? Christy and I said, we don't have those in San Juan. And they said, well, that's what most of the other districts are doing. And so that's kind of where some of this conversation came from. And then, we have provided some compensation as far as giving them a day to get to work on it, but then they still have to have a sub. So even if they're double duty, whatever we ask them to do. And sub plans are, when they're effective, they take a while to write and to prepare and to get everything ready. And I will tell you, we heard the grumblings that we have heard have really only been begging for time. And now we're to a place where they're saying, this is really good stuff, and we love the learning we're getting. We need this, but we just wish we had some time to actually. Now they've been asked to, in unit 1, we've also learned that they're doing a case study. And so they're taking, one child and really delving into reading difficulties and understanding that and making a plan. And we have our instructional coaches helping, many of our teachers along that journey. A lot of this learning is, there's a lot of linguistic, how we speak and how we read, the spelling and why, and how that's all made up. And it's pretty deep learning for a lot of our teachers. And so they really need concentrated time to just be able to work through it. And it would be a really.
Christy, do you want to speak to the transition with the AP?
Yeah, so I think it's that you can have a similar argument when we think about our secondary teachers and really adding that academic flex time that we have, the academic lab. So when you think about that, that's a whole nother section of planning that they possibly didn't have the opportunity to do in the past, because now they're making very targeted decisions on how do we intervene or enrich for students in our content areas. So that's a different type of planning than just planning for a larger block, which was an adjustment as well. In a larger block, they maybe are doing some of that small group that they hadn't done in the past because of how we had the schedule set up, but that whole other academic lab time is a whole additional piece of planning. And so that includes drilling down in the data, just seeing what are those needs for our students, whether that's formative assessment or the formal data that we're using through like district benchmarks, through the Catapult Evaluate data we're using in the river region. So they're drilling down into that and then designing what is specifically needed for the individual student needs. And so that's just a totally different type of lesson planning that they need to do in addition. And I think there's an additional adjustment, and we knew this going into, an AV schedule, is that our secondary teachers they don't have planning time every day. So planning time is every other day now. So that is an adjustment as well, but academic lab is every day. So some of those challenges are there as well for our secondary teachers adjusting to this. And they've done a tremendous job. If you've been in the schools at all and seeing what they're doing, there are some really fantastic things happening that are really promoting meeting the individual needs of our learners in our secondary environment. So I think this would give them the benefit of having that additional time. And we know teachers are working way more time than what we see in a normal classroom day. So I think, there's multiple ways you can look at the value of making this decision. And one is to literally say, we're giving you this time back. But I think there's also a benefit in acknowledging all of the extra time that they have put in on Saturdays doing, their course with letters, or, with our late nights at the school. I mean, we see a lot of our teachers there. after hours. So, I mean, I think there's multiple benefits to looking at this as a way to communicate very strongly that we support you. And we know that time is a resource that we all value very highly.
Questions? Or did you want-
Let me just wrap up by saying, if the decision was made today, there's time to get the word out that, by bringing it now and it's being for December, there's time to make sure parents are aware and make sure the communication is made. Any questions?
So the letters they have to complete, so there's 4 this year, 4 next year, and they're the modules, are they on number 1 right now? They're in the second. And then that's just all done online and tracked by the state? when
We
they
track it and the
complete?
state tracks it, yes. Within the
Okay.
letters program, they track it and we track it.
Okay,
So
and when
we
are
know
they
who's-
required to be finished with module 2? When's,
Well, what
they have a
happens is,
deadline for each of the modules, or?
well, they offer several modules for teachers so that if teachers want to do the learning quickly and then sign up for the first module, there's about 8 to 10 module offerings for each unit so that they can do it, within like a month and a half range, but they'll be done with module 2, I believe it's November. It's the end of
Oh, so
November,
there's
I believe.
modules and units.
Well, modules inside the units.
Yeah, okay.
But then there's,
4 modules
but
this year,
then
4 modules
there's the
next year, but
face-to-face
the units are-
virtual session where they do their learning and they study, and then they go to a virtual session where they get together with everybody else that's signed up in that session across the state, and they do deeper learning about unit 1 or about unit 2. Does
So they
that
will
make
have to
sense?
have completed everything online before they can sign up for the virtual session.
Mhm.
Okay, and we're required, the state Board of Education is the one who created this and is.
Well, this was one of the options that was in rule when the early literacy plan was rolled out, and when it goes to legislation each year. I mean, this was in there. So they didn't take COVID into consideration. So there's a lot of districts participating because
kids were in school.
because of COVID for a year and a half. So, it's,
Right.
while it's great learning, this was their first intervention, and the state really honestly didn't know. I mean, when they said letters will be an intervention, they didn't know what that would really look like, to be honest with you. I mean,
Well, it's
we
an
have lots of
example of-
suggestions for rolling something like this out in the future. I mean, but, we
Well,
could
it's
be
a
more.
perfect example
workable.
of so many things, not
Yeah.
just in
It's
the
a
state,
storm.
but federally. Oh, we should do this and it sounds
Yeah.
good to people.
Yeah.
But look at how it really plays out, just
Well,
an
the state
example.
didn't have a lot of
But-
time to put it in place either. I mean, we've
But they're the
been
ones
scrambling
requiring
and
it.
stuff, but they're requiring it. It's,
So,
yes.
yeah, another question. So this is grades K through 3.
Yeah.
So, and then we have 7th through
Mhm.
12 that has the longer days so.
Or
we-
6 with the ARL, but yes. not
We
all
understand
sixes.
a little bit how what the training is, and there's modules and units that K through 3 starts, but we haven't heard anything about how the training, what is the training for the secondary teachers? How does that work? Is everybody going to get together? Is it done right in each school so that they can better? Because I have heard from a lot of students, any student I see, how's school? Do you like school this year? What's your favorite? Yes, the classes are so boring because the teachers don't know how to use that time. I hear that from I haven't heard, there's not one student who hasn't said that's happening in 1 or more classes. They don't say it's happening in every class. Generally, it's 1 or 2 classes. So I get that some teachers need some help, some teachers don't. So what's the plan for that, to have that training, and what can our parents and students expect if they don't go to school that day? And the teachers have this training, what do they expect in January? Can we expect those teachers to better utilize the time? Because parents are going to say, wait a minute, so now our kids they're behind, and now we're going to miss a day of school. And if teachers get training, I want to see something change.
Right, so I don't think them missing that one day, you're gonna see a dramatic change at the beginning of January. I think that's gonna allow the teacher to do more planning, but again, they're planning on their own during that break. So, but what I can address is that
Okay,
what
so
we're
it's not gonna
doing
be training, they're just, we're gonna give them a day to plan.
to plan, because I think that's one of the challenges we're having, because to have an effective block, you have to have time to plan that, right?
Can I
Like,
share one example of training? So we have put together engagement trainings for all secondary teachers. And these engagement trainings we started the first one in October and our next one is next week. And they're 90 minutes. And so they model exactly how teachers should feel, how students should feel in a 90-minute period.
And we had
And
a
so-
very large number of teachers that
We had
attended the
35
first one.
that just opted in to do it in October, and we're hoping for that bigger group at our next one. But with that training, we throw all of this awesome training to them, and then they have to go back to their regular everyday planning and every day. And when do we really give them time to sit down and delve into their new learning and figure out how they're going to incorporate it and make a change? So that really is a challenge for them.
Okay.
And then in each individual school is working on their own, training of what that looks like based upon their 90-day plan and the supports that they have for their secondary school. So we have some schools like Navajo Mountains, who's in comprehensive school improvement. So they have consultants that are working specifically with them. Then we have a number of schools, which is pretty much all of our mountain region schools and a couple of our river region, that are working with assessment to achievement. So they also are receiving additional support in, how do we improve our instruction to better meet the needs of our students. So that's an initiative that involves the school leadership team. And then they take that back, and then they have that support on the school level. So that's also supporting the work that we're doing. I do think Academic Lab is a little bit unique in the sense that it is very much targeting specific students who need that additional support, but it also allows other students, and like we've heard lots of comments from families and communities saying, oh, my student is able to get their homework done or get homework done with support. So I think that has lots of benefits, but I think for the teachers component of that, they're really targeting students and providing additional lessons in areas that are needed. It's not really, shouldn't be this haphazard, whoever wants to come see me.
Which
during
is
that
another
time.
layer of planning.
Yeah, so it's a whole nother layer. So giving that time to plan that is really important.
So another thing that this affects, so help me understand how this will play out. We have people who work in the lunchrooms, we have bus drivers, we have parents, we have all kinds of support staff, we have administrators. So the superintendent and I had a real short, he started to introduce it to me and I had to go, we couldn't finish our conversation. But what hasn't been said, here's what you said to me yesterday, is that we really wouldn't require any of the teachers to actually, kids wouldn't go to school and the teachers are not required to be in school that day either. So if that's, and then of course we don't have a need for lunch people, and it's going to affect their income, is that right? Bus drivers,
Well,
everybody?
I would like to propose that we hold them harmless, our classified people. Last year, when we did the bonus, if you remember, the certified got 500, the classified got 150. There was a lot of concern over that. There was a lot of feeling that we all went through COVID together. We're all been in this mess together, but it wasn't equal. And I just had to explain that's how it was. That's how it was proved. And sometimes there's winners and losers. In my mind, this might be a time where maybe the classified could win. We could say, it's in our budget, it's hold you harmless. Teachers, you work for 8 hours. Administrators would still come to work. They'd follow the same process of either taking a day off as they normally do, or they'd be at work. But our certified teachers would have time to work. Our classified people would be held harmless. I know that's a lot, but I think that's still what I'd like to propose. And I think keeping in mind everything that we've seen and we're trying to accomplish and that we've explained, I think it's very reasonable. And I know we have professional employees. I just do. I mean, I know there's some examples of unprofessional employees. I'm not going to be delirious to that. But overall, our employees are professional and they do a tremendous job, and they'll give us more than what generally more than what we pay them to do. We get the better end of the return generally. So anyway, I'd propose that, but
My concern
Board
is.
President,
Yes,
we're into 10 minutes of Barbara's time here.
we are. So we're gonna have to
Should we put on pause?
postpone this.
Continue
Thank
this.
you,
Yeah, we
Nelson.
can.
Okay,
Barbara?
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah.
Barbara?
Yes, I'm here.
I apologize.
That is okay. Am I on?
Yes, we can hear you. So, Nelson, would you like to start?
Okay. Well, should we share it? Where's?
Yeah, I'm just going to jump right to the bottom of it. On your challenges, you have a few there, and what I would like to ask you is, is there any additional help or something or assistance that we can help you with to meet those challenges? I know the school has been out of in person for over a year, and you're having a challenge getting students caught up and so forth. And I know all the schools are like that, but for your school, is there any additional things that we can do to try to help you meet some of those challenges?
Well, one of the things that, I was supported with is hiring another interventionist. And they call them the learning loss, support there. And so I do have an additional para that we were able to hire through the ESSER funds. And so we were able to do that. And that was a great support besides the interventionists that I already have, through my various budgets that I use. So that was very helpful in that aspect. And so we're able to create more small groups that way. And so that's one way. And the other is really just the student deficit is just really starting to become very apparent. And it's coming out because the students who chose not to participate and students who had different challenges at home as far as participating in the virtual learning is very apparent how far what huge deficits that they have and holes that they have, and just so that's very challenging. But in that aspect, we did receive another interventionist which supported us.
Okay, Nelson, did you have any follow-up?
Okay, I'm glad to hear that you've got some additional help. And like I said, with all the other schools, it's a challenge for all of us with this pandemic. So I just kind of like to hear what each school has to reach out to us to try to help in return, I guess. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have, Board President.
Thank you, Nelson. Steve, would you like to?
I had a question and Nelson pretty much covered it.
Oh.
I have a question.
Okay,
It's
Mary.
a really basic question. How much support do you have, or do you have significant support from parents who are willing to work with their students at home because of the lack of school year in-person learning that we had last year? Are there opportunities and to work with parents to help them understand better how they can help their students by having school at school and then reinforcing that at home every night in the form of homework and or other things?
Well, one of the things there is as far as one of our celebrations there is just to increase that communication from school to home. I feel like that in essence has supported that aspect, because
we now are able to utilize various things like the web page, Facebook, the school newsletter. I mean, we've had the school newsletter, the email and phone calls before, but I feel like we've increased that. And so in that aspect, I feel like parents are starting to pay attention a little more to really what we're about and what our focus is and what our goals are and what we want to try to, the foundational skills that we want to try and establish within our students. And the teachers they made home visits at the beginning of the school year, and they sent a lot of practice things that they can work with their kids on at home. And teachers are reaching out a little more and more and striving to make that connection. And if there are issues, then teachers reach out and call home. And so because of that increased amount that we are doing on our end, I really feel like parents are starting to take a look at their children or their child and really figuring out, well, what can I do at home? And you still have quite a few that just, there's just a lot of challenges in their home life and their situation that it's nearly impossible for that support to occur. But I feel like it has increased, and I can probably say about, we have a good 50% of our parents that are starting to, that either have supported all along, and we've got that strong support system from them, or it's starting to increase, or that there's more awareness of it. And so I think half of our parents or families, that's pretty good.
Okay, and a follow-up question. For the students who are, well, first of all, percentage of students who, and maybe I may have missed that, but I don't think so. Percentage of students that are enrolled as compared to before pandemic. And then the current enrollment, what is attendance? What's the percentage of attendance? Is it less than it used to be before pre-pandemic, or is it, back to what it used to be, what you would normally expect?
It's less than. Our numbers are around 76, 78 now, as opposed to before the pandemic, we ended up being in the high 90s at times. So it has decreased.
Okay, and then the ones who are actually enrolled for this year, is attendance generally what it has been at Bluff Elementary, in the past however many years you've been here, or is it attendance this year, the percentage lower because of a continued pandemic?
Well, at first, at the very beginning, it was, our attendance was awesome because the kids were so excited to be back to school. And of course, with the COVID challenges, when we do have a student who tests positive, we send a note home, then yeah, the attendance of that decrease, and so because some families just are still very cautious and very afraid. And so they end up just start pulling their kids out for a while, for maybe about a week, and they just want to keep them home and keep them safe. And so due to that, our attendance this second quarter is not looking very good. Our percentages has decreased.
So is there a willingness on those families at that point to get the work that's being done in school when they take them out of school, or is it just, again, just like not much is happening at home if they're not?
Yes, there's a willingness to pick up the work and a willingness to be able to continue to try and do some learning at home.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, thank you for what you do. We realize you have a lot of specific challenges, especially down here with COVID, and but we appreciate your effort and the teachers' efforts, and it's nice to see you guys actually physically in the building. So it's fun to come down here and just thank you.
Yes, it is. It's awesome to be in the school building and we have a very lovely school. So thank you to you board members and those who took part in that and making that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Oh,
Okay. We are going to spend 5 minutes max on this subject and finish it up. So if anybody has any more comments, do you have any more questions? I'm
Yeah,
setting the timer.
What day of the week is that? I haven't
That's a
looked it up.
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
A
We were
Wednesday.
planned on being, our first day would have been Thursday, or if we agreed to this, it'd be Wednesday.
Nelson,
Okay.
did you have any questions regarding that topic?
No,
Okay, so what I was trying to clarify, if I understand this right, the students won't go to school. The administrators will be really the only people in the whole district that will be expected to be at work because the teachers aren't expected to come to school that day. Is that right?
Exactly. For sure. And
But they still have to fill their 8 hours somewhere in the
yes,
break.
they have to fill their 8 hours. They just, we would just, there may be many that are looking to take the day off to go traveling, or with it being a holiday. I think it just makes sense to say, give us 8 quality hours. They'll probably give us far more. Most teachers do during Christmas break because they have to be prepared to come back. And we know that we gave them some time to accomplish some of these things that they are letting us know are very, very high expectations that we've had to take on. But yes, teachers would not be in the building. They could be.
So why?
You could have
why
teachers in the
not-
building on their own.
Why not have everybody come to work that day if the work is expected? And if there is, and case by case, people are leaving to go somewhere, if they have family out of town or they've got, why not have them get permission to do their time another time? Why do it just?
We could, we could.
I think it's not gonna look great to the public to say, we're taking a teacher day, but teachers aren't at school. And I know that probably 95% of those teachers, like you said, they'll be working that day, they'll be working on days between Christmas and New Year's. But some of the very ones who are struggling to fill their hour and 20 minutes, I don't know how we're gonna get that out of some of them that aren't putting that time in there, but I'm just wondering why not have them at work that day, and if somebody has a special reason to not do it that day, it helps, it helps people be accountable, and I understand, and I really know the teacher knows because I'm not in their shoes, but gosh, they've got a lot on their plate. I know they do. And I appreciate the work they do because it's like a birthday in elementary school. It's like throwing a birthday party every single day, all day long. The
Okay,
plans.
so we have 2 minutes left. I'm gonna let's see. Did you have any comments?
No.
Okay,
But
so go ahead.
What Mary is saying about if it's expected, that's a work day, and if you want to take it off, make arrangements with your supervisor. That makes sense to me.
Which you could do.
Yeah, we certainly could do that. I think there's a couple things in my mind that play out, and I know there's a third thing with the public, but in my mind, number one, in my mind, I don't believe we gain anything, because if someone is not going to be professional, they may not even be professional if we require them to go sit in their room. But I do, but then on the other side, I have great faith that nearly very high percentage of our ranks are professional, and we almost always get the better end of the deal. So the message that I could send to those teachers of appreciation and of letting them value their time and arrange their time and decide when they're at the peak of when they want to do that work and how it conveniently fits, I think is a good message. So that's what I would advocate for. It's a message that just says, we value you, you're professional. If it works to come into your room today, come into your room today. But if you needed to go early on your trip and you will give us 8 quality hours, then that's great too. And if it's as easy as them just working it out with their supervisor, then I'm fine with that, because that's probably what a lot of them will do. And that's fine, that's no problem. But I'm not saying they can't be
Well,
at
they
work
have the
that day.
flexibility
I'm just saying
to do.
we'd open up the door that if they needed to be gone, they could. And if it's just a matter of them approving it through their supervisor, that's no problem at all. That can happen. I do believe that maybe many of them will, but maybe you didn't get that one.
I'm gonna kill
But
that
yeah,
thing.
but anyway, so
Okay,
we could certainly go that way.
we're out of time. All right, we are to secondary winter schedules.
Yes, this is kind of a thing you see about 3 times a year, as you see the new season schedules, the 150-mile, and then you see the schedules. I've gone through these. I'm not seeing any that are catching my attention as really concerning. It's obvious as you read through them, we live in a very interesting location because, you know, when some of them I look at very quickly and I see Albuquerque, and you know, maybe you think, well, maybe Albuquerque's a long ways away, but then you look at the mileage for some of our schools, Albuquerque's as close as Monticello going to Gunnison, you know, and so we just live in a very interesting place where we have a lot of travel. I don't see anything on here that I see as really, really outrageous. So I would entertain any questions, but it would be my recommendation that we approve these later in the meeting. And the other thing I would add is, out of all the years, if some of you, and I know Mary, you have been on the board many years, and I think everyone now has been on it 5 or 6. This is the year you're probably going to see more changes than ever because of the COVID situation. So though we're approving these today, don't be surprised if you see some changes and some stragglers and some adjustments, because our schedules have never been more not concrete. They're very flexible right now.
Take the floor again. You've got number 10.
I have
Oh,
a question. So in the future or the coming days, when a team goes 8 players, are we going to be seeing a lot more of out of state and non-region or non-conference games? Will that be happening?
Just want
That's definitely going to dive into number 12. Agenda number 12, we're going to talk directly about that. I don't
do
know.
you
if
just
we
want to
want-
go into 12? We'll just
I
do
could
12
do
and we'll
that.
come back up because that, yes, your question directly relates to that topic.
I'll pull number 12 up and combine it here because it is an answer to your question, Nelson. Monticello right now today is petitioning the Utah High School Association to go independent in football, which is not anything we haven't seen. Whitehorse is independent, Mining Valley is independent. There's been a couple of other 3 or 4 schools in the state of Utah that are independent. Rich is also today petitioning the state to go independent in football. What makes Monticello High Schools maybe a little different is they plan on building their schedule, filling their schedule next year with 8-player football teams from Western Colorado into that league. They won't be official member. They won't compete in the, for the postseason play, but they will fill their schedule primarily, if not completely, from Colorado schools. Now they'll still have to follow all the same travel. It may be crossing the state line more, but they would not exceed any of the travel arrangements unless it's approved on a case-by-case basis by the board. Now, they would like to fill their schedule with Utah schools. And if there's any other 8-player football teams, they will certainly they'll certainly make an attempt to put them on their schedule, which brings us to some interesting things that could happen. And I think the board, I don't think I would be doing my job if I didn't look a little bit down the road and make sure that at the board level, some of these possibilities were at least brought forward, because they could lead into decisions you make in the meantime and how you see those decisions. Whitehorse and Miami Valley, I have reached out to both of those schools. If Monticello is 8-player, and if there were other 8-player football teams, Whitehorse and Miami Valley would be interested in converting to 8-player and coming back and playing those teams. So Monticello is one of the things they're trying to accomplish. and they're very clear about it, is they want to put a little pressure and hopefully start a little movement across the state of a number of schools that would love to be more involved in football, but don't feel like they can compete. Rich has fallen into that group. Altamont's dropped theirs. Tabby has dabbled with bringing one on, but haven't felt like they could quite support 11 player, but 8 speaks to them. Wayne tried a few years ago and whether they'd look at it again. Water Canyon's looking at football. 8 player would be, I just talked to their superintendent. He said, that sounds wonderful for Water Canyon. So there's already probably anywhere from 6 to 8, 9 schools that are at least looking at it, if you include Whitehorse and Mott Valley. So if that 8 or 9 schools all do come on board, that would put pressure on the Utah High School Association to very possibly start an 8-player fall football league with hopefully more schools willing to join it. And that'd be great. And Whitehorse, Mott Valley very easily might come back to the association, wouldn't be independent. Monticello wouldn't be independent. They jump back into Utah High School Association. But there's another component of this proposal that's also kind of been attached to it because it's helpful to some of these schools like Wayne. They're saying, yes, and let's have the Utah High School Association, let's put pressure on them to start a spring 1A baseball, which you've never had in Utah. Monticello's played baseball, they've had to play 2A. They've played for years, they've had to play up. Milford's played baseball in the spring, they've had to play up. Milford didn't want to play up for 3 or 4 years, so they tried to play both fall baseball in 1A, which is where 1A baseball is, it's in the fall, and 1A football, and it didn't work. They just about spread their kids too thin and they moved away from it. But a lot of schools like Milford says, boy, you get a 1A spring baseball league, we're in. So that's kind of the movement. Get a 1A 8-player football league, get a 1A spring baseball league. Well, that all sounds really good and it's great. And I'm not here to tell you a personal opinion on it, but I am here that I think you can look down the road a ways and it could have implication to our district. If Monument Valley and Whitehorse was playing 8-player football and then all of a sudden got a lot of word that, hey, the baseball league is great. Monticello's playing baseball in the spring, have for years. We might want baseball. Who knows? I can't speak for them. I'm not in any way encouraging it, but I am saying that there's a possibility of some of these things growing in different directions. And we've already got part of it going in our district. So that sometimes influences how we might feel or how we would most likely need to respond. You've got a 1A school playing baseball, 2 other 1A schools want to play baseball. You'd either probably have to put them all 3 in one boat, one way or the other. Anyway, so there's just a lot of variables that I can't tell you exactly how this is all going to work. It may gain no momentum and you might not see an 8-player football league in 10 years. You might look back and go, you remember that one time Super Nielsen mentioned the 8-player? Where'd that all go? And maybe it's gone. And you might see in 2-3 years that it's taken off. I just don't know, but it has implications to change some things in the district. When we talk about land at Monument Valley, at Whitehorse, these are some of the things that I think we've got to have somewhat of at least a concept of a master plan. Because in the event that baseball or softball or any other thing did come to those areas, if 1A really got out in front and decided they were going to do those and we agreed, the last thing we'd want is not have enough land to build a field or to support the program. So anyway, Whitehorse has an old baseball field. Whitehorse used to play baseball years ago. So anyway, there's a lot of components that tie into this. I kind of had this at the very end of the list because strategically, and it kind of got pulled up because this also ties into number 11 that I'm going to talk about.
I'll add a few more minutes.
We're flying through these. Okay, so number 11. The Utah High School Association now has a process to develop what they call emerging sports and to monitor if they will go from emerging to a full sanctioned sport. They've got a process. They do surveys. They watch to see what kids want. They take surveys throughout the state, and it's a process, and they've developed it to try to be as equitable as they can about what activities and sports they should sanction. They have sanctioned two new sports to come on, girls wrestling and competitive cheer. There's been two or three that have been really working to become sanctioned and not been successful. The ones I can think of is boys volleyball has in the last 3 to 4 years had a big push and they haven't been able to be successful. Esports is gaining a lot of momentum. Mountain biking is gaining a lot of momentum. And where you're seeing this and in the emerging sports is schools are starting them as clubs and they're sponsoring clubs. And then as those clubs go school to school, they don't compete under the Utah High School Association sanction. They compete school to school. And so like there is a mountain biking competition. There are esport competitions. And then the Utah High School Association is monitoring this to see which ones gain the most participation and considering them for emerging sport to come on as a sanctioned sport. The reason I bring this up is because girls wrestling is this year. So we will be sponsoring girls wrestling in our programs. I don't see how there's any way we can't. I think there's a lot of questions that we'll have to answer and we'll answer those one by one, but we will sponsor and where we have girls that want to wrestle. Now we've had girls wrestle in the past and they have just for the most part been happy to jump on the boys team and wrestle a part of that and then go on the trips and be a part of that experience. But now that it's a sanctioned sport, it's very critical, in my opinion, that we provide an equal and equitable experience to a girl wrestling and girls wrestling to a boy and boys wrestling. We would, I think, take on some substantial liability if we think this program over here with girls is, for whatever reason, not going to be treated the same as this. So that means such things as time in the facilities. The same thinking concept of girls and boys basketball. We've balanced this for years with girls and boys basketball. Who practices first after school? Who practices second? Who goes to the elementary gym this week? Who doesn't? There's been a fair and an equitable rotation there, and we've worked those things out. And you're going to see something very similar in girls wrestling. But one area that it will bring on is we will have to make a decision about a girls wrestling coach. And we will most likely hire girls wrestling coaches, which is an additional expense in our athletic area. And I don't see how we can avoid that, especially if we only have one participant. Anyway, there's some questions I'm going to really explore, but if we have a viable program, it needs to have a coach. And so we'll look at those things and try to keep it in that concept of what's equitable and equal and how do we ensure that the experience is the same. So I wanted the board to be aware of that, but I also want to kind of transition over to, okay, so these other sports that have not been sanctioned are gaining popularity. And we are starting to see those in our district. And it is a concern of mine. Not that I'm greatly opposed to them, but it always comes with some kind of a concern. There's always something that it brings with it. We have an esports club that I wasn't aware of, but have been made aware of in just recent days at San Juan High and at Whitehorse. There's already volunteer advisors that are volunteer. They're not, as far as I know, they're not being paid. If they are, it's at a school level, but it was implied they're not being paid. And these kids are competing through esports by utilizing our system and competing, which is not uncommon to districts all across the state. What might be uncommon and what I really think we need to consider, and I would recommend that we work through in the next few months, is when I got looking to see if we had any policy that laid out a process for a club to be adopted at a school level, we do not. And most districts do. So that's why clubs could, I heard today that somebody told me we had a Frosty Club at one of our schools or something very similar to that. I forget what it was called. A Slurpee Club. Sounds awful fun. Where was it when I was in school? Okay. Sounds awfully good, but And I'm not saying anything bad about any of this. I'm saying this is the concern. The esports club, why some of this came forward was they got a hold of the tech department this week and let them know the things they needed by Friday to compete in their competition.
So
They needed, and it does come at an expense of time usually and manpower, usually not money. But in order for us to configure our computers, make sure our system is set up so that it doesn't filter out during that time, make sure those kids have the right logins, because we've always built those logins around filtering and keeping things controlled. And now that falls outside. There's some time invested in getting this ready to go. And we didn't even know we were sponsoring
So I
something
have a
like that.
question. I don't know what.
Point of order.
Yes, Nelson.
Yeah, let's get back to the agenda and your minutes there. You got your clock with you?
So we've covered the last three
What about
items.
Doug?
So we kind of brought them all into one.
Thing on the whole thing we skipped.
So let me, if I may get back to the 150-mile range real quickly. Even though we go to eight-player sports, it's going to be a while for schools that are closer within the 150 miles to start participating. I understand that part, but we're so far away. I'm 150 miles away from my house to the nearest border town to go shopping, Flagstaff, Gallup, Farmington, almost Cortez. So I'm wondering, when will the day come if we look at the policy again and maybe increase the mileage and go a little further, the 150? Just something to run by you folks at the moment. So anyway, that's another discussion.
So I know that for Monticello, actually their mileage will be a lot less by going into Western Colorado. So for them, it's an advantage mileage wise, but yes, we probably would need to look at that. If Miami Valley and Whitehorse did choose to do 8-man. So
Well,
it's
this
something that
doesn't
we can
limit
bring.
to 150. If it's over 150, we approve it.
Right, so he's
the
saying
board
we
just
can
has to approve
increase,
it.
like we could increase it to even 200 without approval or whatever we choose. But yeah, we can definitely
That
revisit
might be a
that.
Utah High
Steve?
School Association.
Oh, is that a-
Yeah.
Oh,
so-
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
and
that's
it comes
Utah
through
High
and
School
we approve it.
Association.
So that's not something that we can actually change. That is saying, well, that mileage is set by the Utah High School Athletic Association.
Now, the board could pre-approve, they saw a need that, hey, this place, this location, they're pre-approved, go ahead and schedule them. You could do things like that to be creative and let schools know.
But don't
If
they
you
do
want
it
it.
anyway? Don't
They
they
kinda do.
schedule these and then we?
Yeah, well, they're not pre-approved, but you could cancel any of these.
So
Right.
Nelson, I think what we can do is we can put that on, at least have it attached for next, that policy attached for next month, so we could review it, and then questions we have, we definitely could talk about those. Did you have any other questions? Did you have
Sounds
any other
good. Thank you.
questions? Are you there? Did you have any other questions regarding the esports or the?
Let me explain esports because I know that.
But I do have one question regarding that. Can we, I mean, if we're allowing, are we allowing that to happen without a policy? What's the liability? And are we willing to do that? Or do we say until there's a policy in place, we don't allow that to happen?
I think as long as there's a chaperone, we're not accepting a lot of liability because they're not going anywhere. And as long as we have supervision taken care of, there's not a lot of liability. There is some man hours that, and
Sure.
the tech department wanted direction from me. I let them know that we will not just drop everything to do something we didn't even know we had going on. If we can help these kids, but I did realize this needs to be, we need to give some attention to this, not just pop it. I mean, right now, any club of any kind really could probably just pop up in the schools and we'd find out some way or the other that it's there. I would like to be more proactive about clubs have to be approved through a certain process. Sports that are being considered have to go through a formal process. Board is aware of those things. Let me just speak real quickly to esports. Esports, I don't even have a complete, this is what I know about esports. It's a gaming competition. It's no different than when you see individuals get together on Friday and they're gonna go in the living room and they're gonna compete on a certain game. It's gonna be one of those games, and they're gonna see who scores the highest and who goes the furthest. And the state of the legislature actually passed a bill to promote esports in Utah based on the fact that it does have a pathway to some tremendously high-paying jobs. There is a lot of future in jobs and market for these gaming and understanding technology and working in this area. So I just doing a little search on the internet, I was able to go back and see the legislative little presentation they put together. And so it's definitely, anyway, there can be a case made that it's got a lot of value down the road. It's not just wasted time on some game like I used to think my kids were doing. There's some value to it, and in some kids' situations, it leads to a career that is very profitable and very rewarding. But I still think the thing I'm talking about is should all these things just be able to pop up, or should we bring a process and formalize it that we know what's coming and what we have in our schools? So that's what I'm
I think
at.
we'd rather have is there something we can have temporarily drawn up by next board meeting, policy wise?
We'll,
Look and see what other districts have in
Yeah, see what
place.
there is.
yeah, we will definitely,
Okay.
we'll start grabbing and we'll bring it to you as quickly as we can.
Okay.
I think within the next couple of months, you will see at least a first draft of the policy, and you'll know why it's jumping on there, and we'll go from
Okay.
there.
All right, we'll finish our last one on the update on redistricting of voting districts. So
Yes.
if you want to just give an update real fast.
Yeah, listen to the county meeting on redistricting, because I know that's a very important topic to that, and we've been through this just a few years ago, and because of the census count, it's time to go through it again. The county has hired an individual who happens to be part of the lawsuit that was engaged in by the county between the Navajo Nation and the county. It was actually part of their defense. So that gentleman now is representing and hired by the county to be a consultant for them in building these maps. And they had him present in the county meeting. The maps that were presented were, in my opinion, very vague at this point. I couldn't really get them. They were hard to follow. And there was a lot of questions and confusion. And he stated that he would clean those up, put those back on the county website. In fact, he would put them so that you could use a site called davesredistricting.org, and that would help you be able to pull them up and zoom in and zoom out and see all the number, the population and the breakdown data. And that has all been done in the last week. So I want the board to be aware, those maps are now on the county website. I would encourage you to start to look at those. There is some proposal of some changing in some of the districts. By law, they must keep you in your district. So none of you, even if they've made a mistake, and they've wondered if they've made a mistake. I know they questioned whether they had any of you outside of your present district, but the incumbents have to be included in their district. So if they make a mistake, that'll be fixed, because that is a direct
Yeah,
purpose.
that's exactly what happened. What was it, 6 years ago?
Yeah,
They
but-
said we were all in our own districts and we weren't.
and they had to fix
And
it.
they fixed it.
And he did state that in the end, he will ensure that you're all in your district, all incumbents are still there. There is changes though. There's changes slightly in the Blanding area. There's changes down towards past Bluff, heading towards Mexican Water. There's some proposals of moving some things together. They are trying to keep all the boundaries together with the chapter houses. And there's some priorities that are playing out that he's trying to work within. And the county has asked him to provide, he only showed one map, which was very hard to follow. They've asked him to provide a minimum of 3 options. So he's supposedly going to bring 2 more back by this next meeting, which is next Tuesday. So I wanted you to also be aware of that date. If you wanted to either watch it virtually or attend it in person, there will be a county meeting, and that will be certainly a large agenda item with much time dedicated to it.
Okay.
So, and Tyrell and I both will try to attend that. I've looked over the maps. You know, maps are a big talk. If you're following the legislature in the last couple of days, there's a lot of work going on there. And it's, you know, I think it's not supposed to be political, but there's a lot of political, I don't know, I don't see how it's not political, but anyway, there's just a lot of things that play out in the drawing of these maps. And I really can't bring any more information than that, other than I want you to be aware it's happening. Now's the time. If the board wants anything from Tyrell or me, if you want us to, you know, if we wanted to, you could pull up the county and pull up the Dave's redistricting, and we could pull it up here. But you can pull it up at any time. I have seen earlier today, it's on there.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Nelson? Okay. All right, we can go into closed session.
We
If
have
we
all-
would like to.
We do have all three.
Oh, we do. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Nelson, I'm sorry, what?
I was just gonna say, I'm getting a headache again, talking about redistricting. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
Let's talk, we're gonna probably have to use a cell phone for closed with Nelson, because I don't think I trust this being.
Nelson,
100%.
So.
Yes,
we're trying to go into closed session, so they're gonna discuss how they want you to come in.
okay.
So I need a motion to go into closed session, and we are discussing all three items. So we're probably gonna have to
Start with
go.
one, go out of it,
Yeah.
go back in. just-
So I need so someone will make a motion.
Now, first of all, though, did we already have a closed session for purchase exchange release? Well, we did, never mind. I know we have. And that just has to be kept on, what?
Did we? Did we?
We do, yes.
No, yeah, we've got to go in for that. So
For
let's go
that
in for
anyway,
that.
plus what Nelson was saying, but there are things that we're allowed to talk about or not talk about. It has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, so anyway, we just need to
President,
keep.
I would, because I know we have Paul here waiting for this, I would recommend that we start with possible litigation.
Okay, let's do that.
And we ask Paul to stay with us as director of special.
Okay.
And is litigation, is personnel the only one that we don't record and okay, so we
Yes.
will do each one and record litigation.
Okay, so I need a motion to go into closed session regarding litigation.
I move that the board go into a closed session to discuss litigation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mary Shumway, yes.
Steve Black, yes.
Lori Mon, yes.
Nelson Yellowman, yes.
Okay. All right, and we're gonna keep Paul Murdoch in here with us as he's special ed director, so we can discuss this. So Where did Mary go? Mary?
Guess the.
At 6 o'clock.
She, yeah. She.
Right at 6
I
o'clock.
know she'll be back very soon.
No, we don't. There she is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll take my mask. Oh, so we just have the one. All right, thank you. All right, welcome to the public portion of our board meeting, and we appreciate you being here. And to start with, we are going to have our San Juan Sweet Job Award. So Charity, if you would like to come forward, we'll have you stand here, and Mary's going to read that to the public.
You come right here, right here. Margaret, you're gonna have to send me a picture.
Shirley is an awesome teacher. She connects super well with her students and knows their specific needs, the specific needs of all her students, and addresses their needs. She exhibits a high energy with her teaching, which allows students to be excited about learning right along with her. Charity expects from her graders to learn and read and has established a number of ways for them to reach that goal. Charity has had an impact on student learning and on the teachers that she collaborates with. We love her creativeness and her positive attitude. That was by Barbara Silversmith. And I should have said that before we started, but this next one is from Amanda Lincoln. Charity is an amazing teacher. Once in a while, a teacher comes around and you think, wow, she's found her calling. Thank you, Charity, for finding your calling. Thank you from all of your students, past, present, and into the future. Seeing you shine gives me hope for what we do. Thank you for shining and reminding us. And the last one by from Christy Fitzgerald. Charity is so willing to support teachers in developing their Canvas pages. She has spent a lot of time figuring out how to improve courses in Canvas by researching, reading blogs, and practicing. She provided a Google Meet for teachers to demonstrate steps for improving pages to support students in the primary grades. She even created a video for teachers who could not attend. We are so lucky that she is willing to innovate, collaborate, and be a leader. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, and we actually walked into your room today. What a fun room, so thank you, we appreciate it. All right, Eva, do you have any emails? Okay, we have one public comment, and so Luann, I'll give you 3 minutes, but you're welcome to come to the front and address us, and thank you.
We have one board member on the microphone.
We do, it's Nelson, so if you want to come a little closer, then he can hear you.
I'm also, I hope you can hear me. So anyway, I'm Luann Hook, and I've lived in Bluff for 33 years, raised 4 kids, have one left in high school, she's a senior. This year just got the academic all state, so I was all happy about that.
Awesome.
So anyway, she's doing great, but that'll be my last one. It's the first time in this school. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And I just saw the little bit of it, but thank you for putting that in Bluff. And then I also want to say that on behalf of me as a citizen of Bluff, and as I'm also on the town council, representing Bluff residents, that we all have heard nothing but good things about this new school and also the old school, for passing it on to us. So I just wanted to let you all know that we really appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much.
And we see your Bronco shirt. You're gonna cheer them on this weekend?
I can't stay long. I've got another
You're fine.
That wasn't that wasn't your first child on academic all-state either, right? Because I've seen some other folks that have been there too, so.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you. Well, we tried. Okay, we are going to move to our consent agenda. So if I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
by Mary. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Number 1 does not need an action item, so we'll go to number 2, secondary schools winter activity schedule, the 150-mile forms. I need a motion.
I move to approve the the schools that have provided the 150-mile requests. I move to approve them.
Okay, motion by Mary.
Second.
See any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, number 3, approval of the Office of the State Treasurer Public Entity Resolution. Need a motion?
I move to adopt a resolution to modify the officers as stated on the state treasurer form. Don't know what it's called.
I'll second the motion, and I just want to say this is necessary for a change because of change in administrators and people we have working in the school district, but we've got to update those signatures for the state.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. School counseling college readiness support letter. I need a motion.
I move to approve the school counseling college readiness support letter.
Okay. Second.
Second the motion.
Okay, any discussion?
Just like to provide a little, I mean, we talk about all these things earlier when we meet and we just go through and vote. For anybody who's just tuned in, it makes it look like we just are rubber stamping everything, but we have discussed all of these things, and Trevor Olson presented to us and gave us the information to support her on this letter of support.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, number 5, teacher workday schedule change. A motion?
What day were we talking about?
December 22nd.
Okay. I move to designate December 22nd as a teacher workday.
Okay, a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and we do not need to do number 6. So the 8-player football, that was for information basically. So do you want to follow up with the information items?
Yeah, I can run through those really quickly. Tomorrow is no school. It is Veterans Day. I do know our schools had a lot of activities, assemblies, instructional assignments based around our observing our Veterans Day and honoring our veterans. But be aware of that. The SJSD legislative luncheon has been moved around 2 or 3 times. Now it's moved 1 time again. And it is now presently on December 2nd at the Carbon District Office. I actually think I have some invites that I can give to you, but all board members are welcome and invited to attend that. They try to get as many of our representatives, oh, there we are. Our representatives there as possible. But if you'll let us know if you're planning on attending, we can make any kind of arrangements and make sure that you're RSVP. And then our next board meeting is December 8th. Am I correct on that? So
Okay, and then Eva, we got a flyer in the mail regarding the USBA conference.
Yeah.
Do you just want a verbal from us right now?
Yes, I'm really a guest for any of the events.
now, we've reserved rooms, right?
Oh, you have reserved
We
rooms?
have.
Okay, I plan on going.
You're not going?
No, I am. Nelson, Steve, are you?
I'm going.
Nelson, are you going?
Any chance there's a virtual site that's going to be happening?
I don't think there is this year.
I have not heard of one yet, Nelson. If I do, I'll let you know.
Yeah, it hasn't been discussed at USBA
I don't think
meetings,
so.
but
And Mary, you're going?
yes.
Yes. So do you want to, I mean, you can let Eva know next month, probably where you stand with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
November 30th.
Oh, wait, November 30th? So can
Okay.
you know by November 30th?
yes, I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And have a good evening.
Night.
Good night.